Marvel fans, we finally have some new leaks and news about Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, some of which is straight from the directors of the film, the Russo brothers, giving us some major news story details about the film. But we've also got some new leaks about Blade finally coming to the MCU, a new Punisher project, and so much more. Let's talk about it all. Now, we're going to get to the leaks later, but let's start off with the official stuff straight from the directors of the movie, the Russo brothers, because they've finally been talking a little bit more about this film. And of course, a lot of this is kind of just like general stuff hyping up their own movie, but they do actually drop some gems. But let's just go through this all. So Joe Russo in this new interview promoting Captain America Civil War's 10th anniversary. They held a big event for it where they were being interviewed, and he said that Avengers Doomsday is a complete reinvention. It's another swing. I don't think the audience is expecting it at all. What happens in the movie and its tone, its subject matter, it feels like another profound shift for them in this serialized story. I feel like when they're talking about the tone and subject matter, we probably are going to see something a lot darker than most Marvel fans are expecting. Probably one of the darkest MCU films of all time. That's not to say it's going to be like super depressing or like a horror film or anything. The Russo brothers always have comedy in their films, but they know how to get serious, like Infinity War and Civil War. I really think this is going to be a very, very serious and dark movie for a lot of it. And we also know that Doctor Doom seemingly is going after people's kids, like he has Franklin Richards already kidnapped from the ending of Fantastic Four First Steps. Steve Rogers has a kid. It seems likely that he's also probably going to get kidnapped in this film. But let's move on, because this next part is one of the most interesting things they said in this entire interview. Because like I said, this was a Captain America Civil War 10-year anniversary event they were holding, and they ended up comparing the dynamic between Doctor Doom and Steve between the one we see between Steve and Tony in Civil War. They say Tony and Steve Rogers remain very empathetic and rootable, and you'll see to this day people are divided over who was more relatable in Civil War. The answer was Iron Man, Team Iron Man for life. But then he goes on saying, it's very much this sort of unresolved aspirations of those characters and flaws of those characters. It continues to unfold as we move into Doomsday. So it does seem like, yes, Steve Rogers is truly going to be one of, if not the very main focus and character of this entire movie besides Doctor Doom himself. Like I said, I'm theorizing that Doctor Doom's going to kidnap Steve's child, but why is that? There needs to be some motivation, and what seems most likely is that, yes, Steve going back in time at the end of Endgame and living there did start messing up the timeline and having all these incursions happen, which I do think is going to create a very interesting dynamic between these two characters and really all our heroes, because again, if Doctor Doom is trying to be like, oh yeah, we got to shut down all these different timelines, stop these incursions, he's going to be right, but the way he's going to be going about it is going to obviously be wrong. He is the villain of the movie. Now, I know people hearing this is going to cause a lot of concern, because obviously a lot of people are worried about the fact that, oh yeah, Doctor Doom should mainly be a Fantastic Four villain, and it seems like they're just making him more of a general Avengers villain and not even focusing on the Fantastic Four that much. But luckily, Pedro Pascal was just asked, how many big scenes and moments do him and Doctor Doom have in the film? And in response to this, he just said, I will tell you, there is so much to expect, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So it does seem like Reed and probably the rest of the Fantastic Four are still going to have a pretty big role in this film, probably going to be mainly focusing on them, Steve Rogers, and I'd imagine Thor, because no matter how big the cast list is, by the way, this is some new promotional image that people just found. I absolutely love all these costumes and stuff, but no matter how big this cast is, you do have to kind of focus the movie in on a few core characters, or else it is going to feel really messy. The Russo brothers were also asked about just introducing Doctor Doom into the MCU with this film, and they said the ability to introduce an important new character that audiences don't have a relationship yet until going into this film is an incredible part of it, which is kind of an odd comment, because like, yeah, obviously the MCU only viewers don't have any real relationship to Doctor Doom. They don't know anything about him besides seeing him at the end of the Fantastic Four First Steps post-credit scene. But out of all the Marvel characters from the comics that haven't been in a movie yet, I feel like Doctor Doom is the one that most people already do have a relationship with and have an idea of this character in their head. He's been in comics for years and years. Like, he's easily one of the most famous and recognizable comic book villains of all time. He's been in tons of different animated series, so it's a little bit of an odd comment. I understand what they're saying, but still. Now, drop a like on this video real quick, but let's switch over to the leak section, because this first one is that, yes, Marvel Studios is reportedly developing a brand new Punisher project already, so apparently Punisher One Last Kill is doing good numbers for them. And when John Bernthal was asked about this, he simply said that, oh, he's down to keep doing more, but he thinks he needs to be the one making it, which doesn't just mean starring as Punisher. He also was a writer on Punisher One Last Kill, so it seems like he wants to be more involved in the creative side as well. But like I said, we also got some leaks about Blade and how he might appear in Avengers Secret Wars. I'll break this down in more detail in a second, but first I gotta say, I'm going to cover these leaks, but until I see Blade on a screen with my own two eyes, I'm not going to believe this man's ever coming to the MCU at this point. It's been such a ridiculously long wait. Daniel RPK is saying that Marvel Studios is reportedly planning to feature Blade in Avengers Secret Wars, kind of using this movie as like a big introduction to the character. He's not going to have like a huge role. Maybe he comes from like one of the different timelines that's getting shut down, which wouldn't really make sense since we already already heard his voice in Eternals, but nobody remembers Eternals anyways. Kind of just followed this up by saying that yes, Blade will also appear and have a big role in the Midnight Suns film is the plan that he currently hears as well. I'm really hoping this is true. I do think it's smart to introduce Blade in Avengers Secret Wars, put him in a film that's going to be seen by millions of people worldwide. It's going to be one of the highest grossing films of all time. That gives him a huge audience right away. The only thing I'm worried about is that it also seems like Secret Wars is going to be doing the same thing with the new X-Men. They're going to be introduced in this film before they have their own solo film, and it seems likely that we might get a new Black Panther in this movie from a different timeline. And Kevin Feige has literally described this movie as a new beginning instead of a new ending like Avengers Endgame was. I'm just worried it's going to feel a little bogged down with being like a huge advertisement for all these upcoming MCU projects. The reality is they probably do have to advertise it in this to actually get people to go and see these projects. Now, luckily, we've already got some super early reviews from Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man Brand New Day, and Supergirl from people that got to see these at super early test screenings. If you want to hear about all of those, click the playlist above my head right now, and thank you so much for watching.